Today is Wednesday, July 10th. We'll tell you about President Biden's high-stakes speech at the NATO summit and how other countries' governments are looking to influence the November election. Also, the latest from an unrelenting heat wave that's impacting several states, when Americans might finally see some relief. Plus, results of the first study that tested tampons for toxic metals. How and why the government is cracking down on a messaging app popular with kids. And what workplace perk some job hunters are looking for just as much as money. Those stories and even more news to know in today's episode. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. President Biden delivered a highly anticipated speech this week welcoming NATO leaders to Washington. He celebrated 75 years of NATO and spoke about America's unrelenting commitment to the alliance, at least on his watch. This was considered a key moment in Biden's presidency, as he faces doubts from U.S. voters, lawmakers, and some allies about whether he's ready for another term in office. He took the opportunity to announce major steps the U.S. and other NATO countries are taking to beef up Ukraine's defenses against Russia's invasion. Biden also announced he was awarding outgoing NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Now, the president's stamina will continue to be tested even more over the coming days, with formal meetings, sideline chats with world leaders, long diplomatic dinners and receptions, and news conferences. This is expected to be one of Biden's last appearances at an international forum before Election Day. By the way, several high-ranking European officials at the NATO summit also met with a top foreign policy advisor to former President Trump as they prepare for the possibility he wins the election in November. There have been questions about how another Trump presidency could change America's relationship with NATO and the direction of the war in Ukraine, though it's not clear what was discussed during those talks. Americans and allies aren't the only ones keeping an eye on the U.S. presidential election. Top intelligence officials now say Russia has launched what they're calling a whole-of-government effort to influence the election outcome. And they say the Russian government favors former President Trump. Intelligence officials did not give a lot of specific details, but they said Russia was targeting specific voting groups, including those in swing states. Plus, the Russian government is apparently working to influence members of Congress to undermine U.S. support for Ukraine. Already, officials say they've taken down disinformation networks operating on social media sites, and they're trying to keep up with potential artificial intelligence deepfakes of politicians that are also spreading fake or misleading information. They warn Russia is likely to increase its efforts as the November election nears. But as you know, Russia is not the only country looking to influence American opinions. Separately this week, the Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, says Iran has become increasingly aggressive in its efforts. And in recent weeks, it's been covertly encouraging Americans to protest the war in Gaza in an effort to spark outrage and division in the U.S. Apparently, people tied to Iran's government have been posing as activists online and at times have given financial support to protest groups. That said, the intelligence director acknowledges that most protesters are genuinely just expressing their views on the conflict in Gaza and may not be aware they're interacting with or getting support from a foreign government. Now officials are just warning Americans to keep their guards up. Millions of people in Texas are still without power in the aftermath of what was once Hurricane Beryl, and now they're baking under brutally hot weather without the relief of air conditioning. Already, at least 10 deaths have been attributed to the storm, but that number is expected to climb, especially if power doesn't come back soon. People have also reported gas shortages and mass outages of TV, internet, and phone services, all because of infrastructure taken down by Hurricane Beryl. Officials say it could take days to get things back up and running again. As for the actual storm, Beryl has been downgraded to a post-tropical cyclone, but it still poses some risk for flash flooding and tornadoes today as it moves through the Midwest. When all is said and done, AccuWeather says Beryl is expected to cause as much as $32 billion in damage and economic loss. It's not just Texas facing dangerous heat. About 55 million people across the western U.S. are still under heat alerts. This heat wave is attributed to at least 8 deaths so far, and many heat-related illnesses. So far, 14 weather stations across the West whose weather records go back 50 years or more have set new all-time temperature records with the current heat wave. That includes Palm Springs, which has hit 124 degrees, and Las Vegas, which reached 120. People are expected to get a little relief by the end of this week, with high temperatures in Vegas falling under 110 degrees. But temps are still expected to be above average for the foreseeable future. More news still ahead, but first, a quick break for our sponsor, Quince. We continue to report how this is a busy travel season. And while vacation can certainly be fun, the travel part can sometimes be stressful, including deciding what to pack. But then I discovered Quince. Quince is my new go-to for high-quality vacation essentials that I'll be putting in my suitcase for many trips to come. Think premium European linen dresses, blouses and shorts from $30, washable silk tops, premium luggage options, and so much more. I mean, staples like my black linen pants can be paired with so many different tops and are both comfortable and cute. And did you hear me mention my washable silk tank? The best part, all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. By partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. So I love that. Pack your bags with high-quality essentials from Quince. Go to quince.com/newsworthy for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE, quince.com/newsworthy to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to the news. Americans are starting to see a new feature in certain grocery stores: vending machines that dispense bullets. They're designed so people can get ammo 24 hours a day, 7 days a week without having to stand in long lines. They're already installed in stores across Alabama, Oklahoma, and Texas. Another machine is set to go up in Colorado this week, and the company has plans to expand to Louisiana as well. To use them, you have to be 21 and have a valid ID, and the machines use 360-degree facial recognition to verify. The company behind the vending machines say they're the safest, most secure method of purchasing ammo in the country. It notes how online sales might not require people to submit IDs, and how at retail stores there's always the risk of shoplifting. Still, there are concerns about cyber criminals bypassing security measures to get ammo from the vending machines. Experts are now recommending regular security audits to address potential vulnerabilities in the future. There are some new concerns about period products used by millions of people around the world. A recent study from UC Berkeley, Columbia University, and Michigan State University tested 30 top-selling tampons from 14 brands. They were bought from major online retailers and stores across the US, UK, and Greece. And what researchers found was toxic metals like lead and arsenic in all of the samples. They say this is actually the first study to look into the concentration of metals in tampons. So now they want to see a lot more testing. The FDA says it's looking into the findings now, but it also noted that the study does have some limitations. For example, it doesn't actually look into whether any metals from the tampons are being released into the body, and if they are, whether the metals can actually be absorbed or cause any harm. Even the researchers say they can't yet say people should not be using tampons. For now, though, they do want more oversight. A scathing new government report blames so-called middlemen for high drug prices. The Federal Trade Commission published a 2-year investigation into firms that manage drug benefits and actually promised to control high drug costs. We're talking about pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs, like United Health Group's Optum Rx, Cigna's Express Scripts, and CVS Health's Caremark. Together, those 3 PBMs manage roughly 80% of all American prescriptions. They're responsible for negotiating prices with drug companies, paying pharmacies, and determining which drugs patients can access and how much they cost. Well, FTC investigators found they often steer patients away from less expensive medicines and overcharge for cancer therapies so they can get larger rebates from drug makers and boost the pharmacies they're affiliated with. But not everyone agrees with these findings. A trade association that represents PBMs says the report is biased, only based on anecdotes and comments from anonymous sources, and isn't representative of the entire market. For now, the FTC has not brought lawsuits or enforcement actions against any specific benefit manager, but the report could inspire actions in Congress as lawmakers look to rein in drug costs. And the FTC says it will keep investigating. A messaging app that's become pretty popular with kids and teens is no longer available to them. In a first-of-its-kind ruling, the Federal Trade Commission decided an app, NGL, can no longer host anyone under 18. The FTC also fined the company behind the app and its founders $5 million. If you're not familiar, NGL stands for Not Gonna Lie, and it's an anonymous messaging app with at least 200 million global downloads. But the FTC says the company unfairly marketed the app to minors, misled users into buying premium accounts, and made false claims about a tool to deter cyberbullying. In just one example, the FTC says the app sent fake messages saying things like, "I know what you did," or "I've had a crush on you for years," and told users they could figure out who sent it by buying a premium service. Then, once users actually bought the $10 a week subscription, no actual names were revealed. NGL's co-founder told the Washington Post the company thinks many of the allegations are not true, but called the settlement an opportunity to make NGL better than ever. It's time for Samsung's big launch event, meaning the tech giant is about to show off some new products. Samsung has been promoting today's Unpacked event with a picture of a foldable phone, so expect that to be the big highlight. As you might have guessed, artificial intelligence is also expected to have a big part in the event, with all kinds of new features being showcased. Samsung is also expected to talk about the new Galaxy Ring, unveiling things like what kinds of information its sensors will gather and how much it will cost. And there are rumors about new earbuds, a new Galaxy Watch, and more. The Unpacked event will be live streamed this morning on Samsung's website and YouTube channel starting at 9 a.m. Eastern. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Work Wednesday, when we break down one interesting career or work-related news story every Wednesday. But first, this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. We've all heard the saying, comparison is the thief of joy, right? But with social media, it can be hard not to compare when everyone's posting the highlights of their lives. Whether it's on social media or in real life, if you've ever found yourself wishing your life looked like someone else's, therapy can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have, so you can actually start living your best life. In fact, whatever mindset shift I need in any given moment, therapy has given me the strategies to first recognize what's actually going on and then respond to it in the best way for that moment. If you're thinking of starting therapy, BetterHelp is a great place to start. It's online, so it's convenient and flexible, and it makes it really simple to switch therapists if you need, so you can find the best match for you, no awkward conversations required, and no additional charge. So stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/newsworthy today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to Work Wednesday. A lot of job seekers these days are looking for a specific work perk: friendships. That's especially true for younger workers who have spent years attending classes on Zoom and having the usual field trips and school events canceled. But it's not easy in the workplace either, especially with the rise of remote and hybrid work. So some employers are now specifically trying to foster workplace friendships. For example, at the dating app company Hinge, there's a team meeting twice each month, and the first 30 minutes are meant for just catching up. The Wall Street Journal also spoke to some bosses at restaurants, hotels, and parks who say during slow times, they now let workers socialize instead of cutting their hours. Many young workers say it's not just about fun, but about getting a chance to practice social skills they'll need in the future. It's apparently good for employers, too. One Gallup workplace management researcher told Business Insider, workers collaborate more effectively when they have real relationships with their colleagues, that they're more engaged, productive, and committed to their organization. So he says it's important for both employers and employees to build up camaraderie by embracing things like mentorship programs, workplace book clubs, or even just impromptu conversations. Well, speaking of friends, please be sure to let all of your friends and family know about The Newsworthy. Tell them why you like to listen and encourage them to give it a try. Thank you so much in advance for your support by spreading the word about the show. And as always, thank you for listening and making us part of your day. We'll catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.